have Steven Jaeger and Peter Uihlein with us today. They're both 32 years old. Correct. Steven's from Germany initially, before moving to Chattanooga and residing in the U.S. and playing the PGA Tour. Peter's from Massachusetts, went to Oklahoma State, played in the European Tour, and is now on the PGA Tour. We can kick it off with some questions. If anybody has questions to start, raise your hand, let them rip. Let's go.
So thank you for coming out after your match as well. Basically, I'm going to the 9th grade next this fall, and I wanted to know how much time did you dedicate to golf when you were in high school?
After school, pretty much all my friends, obviously I had a lot of friends on the team in high school or before that. We just spent a lot of time on the golf course. Now, I wouldn't say necessarily quality time like we do now. I think it was a lot of fun and just kind of enjoying the company. And you do get some work in while you do that. But in high school, I think first things first, you gotta go to school, get good grades to be able to play golf. But other than that, yeah, I think you do. But in the afternoon, if you've got friends and buddies out, spend some time, have fun. Number one thing, I think if you take it too serious too early, I think it kind of takes the fun out a little bit, and that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, mine was a bit different than Steven. I went to a golf academy in Florida.
Wow.
So school wasn't really much of an option. We played golf all day, really. So my grades reflected that in college especially. But so it was specialized for golf. So we'd work out in the mornings, go to class for I think we went for about 3 hours, and then it was just golf the rest of the day. So
wow.
This was something I always
nice.
I know.
it was like college. This was something I always wanted to do, so we started at an early age, and that's just kind of committed to it.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I think the lesson there is if you're good enough to go to a golf academy or get a college golf scholarship, then you can focus more on golf. Otherwise, maybe focus on those grades too, just in case pro golf doesn't work out. Any other questions?
Great.
Somebody's got one.
Not everybody wants.
Right.
It's either
What kind of mental preparation do you do before a tournament?
Rest.
Yeah.
I told him today, I was like, what are you doing the rest of the day? I was like, well, I'm going to relax a little bit. This is my, I think third or fourth week in a row. So it gets, we got to practice. I had to play 18 holes yesterday because I didn't get to go on the golf course on Monday. So for me, I think the mental prep is mostly rest, just because it just gets a lot, especially if you play all 4 days or you're in contention. It's a lot of stress there. So I try to take some time off the golf course as well to relax and stuff.
Yeah, I got a 3-month-old, so I don't really get the rest.
Congratulations.
So I rest when I can, but it's kind of the same where you try to get as much relaxation in and downtime, especially a day like today, because I'm not playing today, so it's just kind of go through the motions a little bit, relax, and just kind of get ready for tomorrow.
Here you go, quick.
Favorite golf? What's your favorite golf course?
Uncrustables. I love them.
I'll go with like an almond butter jelly sandwich as well. So we're kind of on the same one. A little healthier here. Banana is a good one too.
It's so funny.
What's your favorite part of being on tour?
Traveling. I've always loved traveling. When I left school, I started over on the European tour. I left school, went over there, went overseas to play. Did 6 years, loved it. Met my wife, decided to come back and play out here. But traveling is probably is my favorite thing. I like going to different cities. And before it was different countries, which was great. And now different cities, seeing different places. And this is my first. I was here at Congressional back in 11, but I actually have my grandfather and my mom grew up in Rockville, so I have ties to the area a little bit, but I haven't been back here in a long, long time. So It's kind of cool. I went down to DC City, saw a little bit yesterday. It was cool. I make it a point of emphasis to try and kind of see those places when I travel. So.
Kind of same, yeah. I think if you want to do this maybe for a living or even in college, I think travel is a very important part. If you don't like traveling, it's a very, very tough thing to do. Same with me as Peter. I like to kind of see the local, anytime we go somewhere cool where I haven't been, I like to kind of involve myself in some food options or whatever it is. It's just fun. I think we don't get enough time to do that. We might have to get one day that we can get in, but it's always nice to kind of see different cultures and different cities for sure.
Crab cakes this week, right?
Yeah.
Going back to that a little bit, Peter, did you have a favorite spot in Europe, like a city or a certain tournament that really stuck out to you when you were over there?
I did like Germany. I went to Oktoberfest actually. I had a good time. I will say Prague. I love Prague. My wife won't let me go back to Prague, but I love it. But I spent a lot of time in Dubai. I pretty much based myself out of there for a little bit. So Dubai was probably my favorite, and Prague, Europe. I did like Munich and those places, but I did like Eastern Europe a lot.
And Stephen, kind of the reverse of that, you coming from Germany, moving here, was there a city or somewhere that stuck out that you maybe weren't aware of that surprised you that you liked in the U.S. more than you thought?
Yeah, and I keep saying this to people. It's actually Boise. It's you would never think it's a great downtown. It's kind of smallish. You can walk around. Great food options. I've played that tournament a couple of times in a row, and it's just. I'm a small town guy, and when we go to like LA and all these places, I'm like, it's just too big for me. So for me, I live in Chattanooga, which is a small town, so I'm used to that. But yeah, Boise will surprise you, Justin.
When did you start playing and what motivated you to start?
Well, I can answer that for Peter, but Dad maybe had in on that one. So my parents both played very poorly, but they played golf. And so I, as a kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, I'd always go on vacation, and they would play, and I'd drive the golf cart, and it was the coolest thing ever. I would just drive the golf cart, and eventually I was like, I want to try this. And when I was probably 9 or 10, I was like, I want to get some clubs, I want to start playing, and it didn't really get competitive until I was probably 13, 14. Played a lot of other sports, soccer, obviously big in Germany growing up. So after that, I think the majority of the time I spent playing golf after 14, just because it takes so much time. I rescheduled, but that's how I got into the game.
Yeah, my dad was in the business for a long time, so that was part of it. And my grandfather here at Woodmont was the head pro for about, I think it was about 25 to 30 years. And so it's just kind of in my blood and DNA, really. I tried playing baseball, wasn't very good, but I liked the individual aspect of golf mainly, so I just started at a really, really young age.
Tony Marlowe? Hey, Grandpa? Bull rider. The PGA member right here. Two questions. One for you, Peter. You mentioned the European tour. Did you ever play the Omega Masters in Switzerland?
Yeah.
Pretty nice place, right?
Yeah, great.
It's the greatest golf course. But you guys, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, we basically played on the Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
We had some holes, you could see the mountains in the background. And during the week, earlier in the week, I think you could take the gondolas up the mountain and go to some restaurants. I know it was I think it was the highest, like players got engaged there all the time. It was so beautiful. They brought their spouses there and who were the pros. So yeah, it was a pretty week, hard to get to, but it was cool.
Probably from like 60 years. Yeah. Steven, tell me about politics and pros when you came to our event 4 or 5 years ago. You had a good time, right, at our event? First event?
Yes, I did. It was inside though, wasn't it?
No, politics and pros. Keith Mitchell was there that year, I think.
Yeah, I tend to have a good time, so it's you know, it could well been I had a blast.
We love having you. We love having you there. And in a future year, we take both of you guys, but we know that this year you'll be in the U.S. Open.
That's right.
U.S.
That's right.
Open Monday.
That's right. Yeah.
Great to see you both.
Yeah.
so
Thanks.
much.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Alright, so I had a question. So, how do you feel knowing you have a lot of people watching, like thousands? How do you feel? I know you're out on the golf course.
It's actually weird for me. I feel like because you know the ropes and you have them always on the outside. I don't really notice it that much. You know, I've never really played. You know, we kind of both played in the Tiger era a little bit. I played actually my first time playing the same tournament as him was here 3 or 4 years ago. I think we had Quick and Run. And it was just totally different. There was a lot more people. I think I played like 3 groups behind them on Saturday, and I noticed it a lot more then. But on a normal week, you know, like I'm not that big of a name yet, so like there's not really thousands of people watching.
Too big to be.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. But yeah, so there's not really that many people like constantly watching you and yelling your name and whatever. But I get pretty focused, you know, kind of on what we're trying to do out there. So.
He hits it a lot straighter than I do, so I hit it into the gallery a lot more, so I interact more with the people than Steven does. So I think it's fun. At the end of the day, we're entertainers, and so you know, if we get an opportunity to kind of show what we can do up close after I flail one into the trees or something, and kind of show off spectators, that's kind of how I view it. And it'd be no different than watching any other sporting event, trying to have someone pull up a good shot. That's the mentality I have when someone's coming around. So.
I know what you're talking about. I hit 3 kids in 1 round in Zurich a couple weeks ago, so I was running out of gloves pretty quickly. But,
So, is it all about golf, or do you have any other hobbies that you love besides the game?
oh boy, yeah. Hobbies. Honestly, people ask me what I do on off weeks, and I tell them not much. Like we said, we travel so much. I just like to spend time in my house, around my house, and golf is, I think, what we do. I don't think I wouldn't consider myself like that's not what I'm.
Is there anything else that grabs you in life besides the game?
I don't have any like super hobbies that I'm like, wow, I need to do this all the time. No.
Gambling.
Yeah. That's kind of what we do anyways. I actually had a first tee event a couple of weeks ago. It's like a funny story. And they, gambling. And they're like, hey, like, how do you want kids to be competitive? And I said, gamble. And everybody's like, what? First tee, you can't. And actually, I didn't mean gamble on money. Like, we used to play washing the clubs or washing shoes or push-ups or hey, you have to run to this tree and back, and that's gambling too, and it's fun. It's it doesn't have to be money per se. It could be like you've got to clean my clubs for an entire week. You've got to clean my shoes afterwards. I think it's fun, and it gives you a competitive edge over others.
As a parent from a kid from first tee that wanted to go pro, but is focusing on her education right now, what advice would you give them that if they wanted to try to go pro, how would they do that, especially when they're, like a molecular biologist or whatever, but feels like they can do? What advice would you give them to kind of make that transition, and how could a parent help them do that?
Should I take this? I didn't really do much school. So, he was honest, right? So, for me, I think as a parent, whatever. I'm not a parent, so I can't speak for that. But as a kid that had some talent, where you could kind of see that there could be a future. My parents were super in the background, but supportive, if that makes sense. Like if whatever I wanted to do, try it out. And for me, it was easy. I wanted to be at the golf course all the time, and I wanted to try to get better, and I wanted to. I grew up watching a European tour event every year. So I saw these guys every year, and I was like, this is really cool. that was one of the reasons I came to the States, because I knew that in the States you had a lot better chance with school and then sports afterwards. We don't have that in Germany. It's schools and then you go to your local club and you practice by yourself. Here you have a team, and I don't know about your child. I don't know how old or what age range he or she is, but I think you can tell pretty early on in college years and maybe early years after college if he or she has enough talent or enough will to make it. I think if you ask the right people, they give you the right answer. So I think if he or she's a, what'd you say, microbiologist,
Yeah.
I would stick with that. Because that seems pretty good, and there's a lot of positives in this sport, especially professional golf. But a lot of people don't see all the negatives, and the negatives, the lows are pretty low, and it's good to kind of, like on a normal job, you get a paycheck every week. We only get paid if we play on the weekends, which is, it's obviously a lot of pressure and stress.
I think ultimately they just, if they love what they do, I think that's part of it. Obviously, we play golf, and there's some of us that might not love it, we do this job, but I would say a majority of us love just playing golf. And we're fortunate enough to be in a situation where we can make money and we can try and grow the game and help younger generations play. And I think as a new parent, I think that's, my wife and I were chatting, like I would never put something onto my kid to want to do something. I would never want him to play golf. Like I'm just going to try and kind of let him decide what he's going to want to do, what he's passionate about, what he loves. And so I think that's ultimately the best thing I think a parent can do. My folks are great. They kind of, they shipped me away to boarding school, but the reality is they're great. They let me choose what I wanted to choose, and I wanted to play golf. So that was that.
Out of all the holes, which one do you see the most?
11 T.
Out here? Yeah. No, just in general.
Oh, in general. 11 T years hard.
4 is pretty tough.
Yeah. There's a lot. I'm trying to process. I'm trying to break it down to just one. But there's a lot.
What is it that makes 11 so tough?
It's just hard. It's just, I think it'll be like in off the left a little bit. And
Peter hits a cut, so.
Yeah, and if you hit it in the rough right, you're not hitting your second shot over the hazard, so you're lining up. No bail. It's a tough tee shot. It's a good hole.
What's the best shot you've hit in your career?
Something, David.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll tell you my worst shot. I shanked one a couple weeks ago, so we still hit the bad ones too. I think the best shot has to do with, probably if you're under pressure and you hit something that you're like, this was it. And we've both kind of been fortunate to win a couple of times. Not on this tour yet, but over in the entire world. But probably some of those shots on Sunday coming down the stretch is pretty fun to realize you've got what it takes and kind of pull through.
And it could be a Friday afternoon if you're kind of battling to make the cut, not playing well, and just hit a really good shot coming down the stretch. I don't know. You take kind of mini victories, Sometimes you just don't have your best stuff, but if you gut it out, hit a good shot coming down, it's a mini victory, and then you kind of build off that.
Do you want to talk about a best round of your career, bragging yourself, anything like that? Best tournament, best round, best single day, anything like that?
So I grew up a big Ernie Els fan. He was always, obviously I like Tiger, but Ernie was probably my favorite. And I got to play with Ernie at the Dunhill Links in 2013, which is over in Scotland. We were playing Kings Farms, got paired with Ernie, and shot 60 that day. I had a putt for 59 on the last, and just missed it, but shot 60. And just kind of playing with, my hero growing up was pretty special to me.
I shot 58 a couple, probably 5 years ago, out in San Francisco, first round of the tournament, and it was on the web.com back then, which is the Corn Ferry now, and I'd had a terrible year that year, and it just kind of kickstart the end of the season for me. I ended up winning the tournament, my first tournament win, and that was I think it was the first PGA sanctioned 58 that was shot. And then Furyk shot it the next week at Travelers. Kind of put a nail in my coffin on that one. It was actually funny because I saw him a couple months later on the Tour Championship in Jacksonville, and I made sure they knew that mine was the first one.
All right, we've got time for a few more questions.
Each of you, what's your favorite make?
I've only played one time.
To watch and play.
Yeah, Open's probably my favorite to play, just because it's different, it's unique. And then Augusta is obviously special. I would rank US Open last. I really like the
agree with that.
No offense, depending on the USGA official.
Really? Why?
Yeah,
That's a long story.
Yeah, there's a lot going on over there.
I think for me, it's watching the Masters number one. Just because you know every hole, it just like not another major, unless it's like St. Andrews. I think like if the Opens in St. Andrews like this year, it's kind of like you kind of know the holes, but it's just the same every year, and it's just I don't know the hype. It lives up.
What else to stay focused on the golf course?
Caddies help. You caddies pretty much your best friend out there, so you talk to them a lot, and because it's a long day, it's about 5 hours, so it's hard to stay focused all the time. So if you're kind of in between shots, just kind of talking and just communicating with them and just telling stories and stuff, that kind of helps you. Then you get dialed in for the shot.
Caddy only friend, I guess, on the golf course for 5 hours sometimes, but. I don't think you can necessarily focus from 5 hours straight. And I think that's kind of the misconception. I think maybe the 30 seconds or a minute leading up to the shot where you're deciding what to hit, blah, blah, what shot to hit. That's when you need to be focused. Like if you're walking down the fairway after a drive, there's no need to be like this. My opinion on that.
Any more? That's Chance. He's got one there, white hat. You got right here. No, nothing. All right.
What's your favorite non-PGA course that you play? Like not a tour course, but something you play in your favorite.
Not a tour course?
Not a tour course.
Whole Sandwich up in Massachusetts. It's probably my favorite. Yeah. I love that place. One thing.
We went up to kind of the Northeast a couple years ago. I played Pine Valley and Marin. And I don't know if there's any Pine Valley members. Yep, there is. Loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I like Marion a lot too, minus the couple par threes there, 260. We played it up a couple of tees and it was way better. But those two, Northeast courses, they're just great. Some old school stuff and there's some newer stuff that's really good. I like the grass; it's always green. We get that brown stuff in the winter in Chattanooga. I do not like that. But yeah, Northeast is good.
What's your all-time favorite course, like PGA?
On tour? I really like Pearl Hollow. We're not there this year, but I really like Pearl. Pearl's one of my favorites. So those last three, it's good golf course, good holes.
I'm probably either Pebble. I know it's cliche, but I just love that place. And as the golf course, I like Riv. I've never played good there, but I love it. So maybe one.
All right, I think that's all. We'll give him a quick hand. Thank you, Peter.
Take a group photo. Have all of us up here.